Okay, hello everyone. My name is Paula Gold Williams, and I'm the president and CEO of CPS Energy. We are doing something kind of special here today. Super excited. We just wrapped up a conference in a partnership with EPRI, where we talked about electrification just a couple of blocks away from our corporate office. But as we thought about how do we leverage organizations and talent and people, I was talking to my dear friend Barbara from EPRI and many leaders in our organization, and we thought maybe we could do something special. We can have the benefits of people conveniently being able to come together where they are, but why don't we use technology to expand our reach and have an experience together? So here I am. I'm kicking it off. I think we have EPRI. There's a technical women's network from EPRI, which I think is awesome, and I'm looking forward to learning more. Wonderful organization that gives us global perspective and helps us think about new technologies of future. We have a self-help group inside our organization. It's a self-sponsored group of women empowered. And today we're going to showcase some of their talents in organizing what we do. WCEE, the organization associated with supporting women in the thought leadership around the nexus point of energy in the environment, bringing all of these organizations together. And generally, we are also outreaching to women across CPS Energy via the internet connection here. So we are excited to be able to have you here. They have constrained me behind a podium because I am dangerous. I tend to walk around and the camera can't really follow me. So my people are super intelligent and they've anchored me to this podium. I can't get away, but this way you can see me lively from wherever you are. We're here to talk about a lot of things, where the industry is going. We're going to have some presentations for you about what we think in the evolution of the industry and where we're at. We're going to talk a bit about leadership and women and what the industry holds and potential. And actually, Barbara's going to engage me in some, virtual fireside chat so we could talk about whatever. We're going to be able to take input. You're going to be able to send us questions if we do it right. If we do it wrong, we get another bite at the apple another time around. We're going to do our best to have a little fun here. And I want to thank all the organizations for being supportive, all of the organizations and being creative. And I very much am excited about being here today. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barbara.
Thank you so much, Paula, for all your support, and you've just been terrific, and your whole team has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you all. I'm joined here in the room by just a fantastic group of CPS Energy people who've been helping to organize and coordinate this event. I think everyone knows, but it certainly bears repeating, that Paula is the 2019 champion of WCEE, and so we're thrilled to have her as our champion and all the support that she's been providing. Also, I want to thank some special people in Washington, D.C. who are organizing this event on that side. Pat McMurray, who is our Lunch and Learn Vice Chair, is in actually the EPRI D.C. office. Also, we have Robin Robinson, who's with WCEE and has been heroically coordinating all of these events. And then our own, from my perspective, EPRI's Tammy Clark, who has been providing the tech support in DC, as well as all of the remote located WCEE members who are joining us from home offices and other places. So this is our first ever WCEE on the Road Lunch and Learn. I am thrilled. We have been waiting years for this, and thank you all for making this happen. We're going to have today experts from CPS Energy here in San Antonio who are going to be discussing CPS Energy's innovative flexible path. And that path calls for an overall reduction of traditional fossil fuels to produce electricity and shift towards greater reliance on renewables, storage, energy efficiency, and demand response. So we are very pleased to have these two wonderful experts with us. I'm going to be introducing the first one and then the second one after that. Please join me in welcoming Angela Rodriguez. She is Interim Director of Climate and Sustainability here at CPS Energy. She's been a part of CPS since 2007, and in her current role, her team works across the company to make such sustainability initiatives, make sure they are aligned with the overall strategy. Prior to working for CPS Energy, Angela worked for Luminant TXU, the utility company in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as a gas-fired power plant engineer and as a chemistry lab supervisor at TXU's Comanche Peak nuclear power plant. So that was a very wonderful and unique background. Angela serves on the Large Public Power Council Environmental Task Force and chairs the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce Energy and Sustainability Committee. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Angela here to the podium, and thank you again.
Hi, everybody. I am Angela Rodriguez, the Interim Director of Climate and Sustainability. And I'm going to be giving you some energy context and share how our bundling power options can increase our customer and community value, and also explain some of the technology challenges and benefits. And I'll talk a little bit about how we are driven to serve our community, tell you about our flexible path, also talk about our generation diversification, and then finally the Flex Power Bundle. We recently celebrated our 75th year of being owned by the City of San Antonio, but CPS Energy has been around a lot longer than that. It was in 1860 when the first light bulb went in front of the post office at Alamo Plaza, and that was before Thomas Edison opened the first New York City generating plant. In 1942, the City of San Antonio purchased the former San Antonio Public Service Company, later to be named City Public Service, what we now call CPS Energy. So we've been part of the community for 159 years and have a legacy of providing service that's safe, reliable, and sustainable. The city's population has changed a bunch over that same time period. Back in 1860, there were only 8,000 people here. In 1940, it was 250,000. And now we're almost at 1.5 million. We have around 3,000 employees who work hard every day to make sure that the power is there when our customers need it for their families and their businesses. We have to be there when people flip the switch, and we put people first. A little bit by the numbers here. We are the nation's largest municipally owned energy utility that has both natural gas and electric service. We serve a little over 840,000 electric customers and a little over 350,000 natural gas customers in and around the San Antonio area. We have a history of power diversification. We were early adopters of both wind and solar. We have the largest solar power production in Texas and 7th in the nation. We are the second largest wind production in Texas, which allows us to avoid 2 to 3 million tons of carbon emissions, and that would be as if we were taking 600,000 cars off the road each year. We consider our customers to also be our investors. We're owned by the community, and we are managing their assets. Part of our revenue goes back to the city to help pay for parks, public safety, and other services. Our credit rating reflects that our strategy is successful, and we really want to provide world-class energy solutions to meet a diverse and unique community, while also acting as an economic engine to drive value and growth in our community. This slide shows a lot of our awards and recognitions, and it's not just for bragging. These awards show that our thoughtful approach and our ability to balance safety, security, the environment, reliability, affordability is recognized not only locally but also nationally. We want our customers to trust us and know that we have the expertise to make good decisions that add value. This is our flexible path graphic, and it was used in hundreds of presentations and handed out to our customers at our care fairs, luncheons, and various events around town when we launched our flexible path during 2018. Our flexible path is a fresh, strategic approach that we're using to thoughtfully discover, explore, and implement new power solutions over the next 20 years and beyond. It's not a set plan, it is flexible. It's a straightforward framework that's helping us conceptualize how to skillfully manage our existing assets like coal, natural gas, wind, nuclear, solar, while we incrementally and purposefully transition to new power generation sources such as solar and battery storage. We look for new solutions to meet our customers' needs in the ever-changing landscape of our city, and along the way we have to make sure that we balance safety, security, reliability, affordability, the environment, and stay resilient. We manage a diverse and dynamic electric generation portfolio, and through the years we've been able to incorporate new technology that helps provide our customers with safe and reliable services. The flexible path calls for a reduction in traditional fossil fuels to produce electricity and shifts to an increase in renewables, storage technology, and other new resources that will help provide a cleaner footprint for our community. This graph shows that in 2010, we had the majority of our generation coming from the navy blue and the gray bars, which represent coal and gas. 2018 shows where we were as of the last full calendar year, and once the results are in for 2019, those values will reflect that we shut down our Dealey coal unit at the end of 2018. A lot of people will say that we shut down an old coal unit, but I just want to point out that Dealey and I were both born in 1978, so we prefer the term middle-aged, but it was 15 years earlier than its natural retirement date, which would have been a 55-year life. We need those fossil fuels to bridge over and stay reliable and affordable as renewable and storage technologies improve. That in the last bar, that 16% bright blue piece you see is where we will fill in with those new technologies that develop. And for more than a year, we've been engaging with our community to discuss the flexible path. The flexible path is really a change from our traditional way of planning, and we need to be nimble and quick to take advantage of emerging technologies as they develop. In the past, we used to plan for large generation assets that had a 40 to 55-year lifespan, and we had to plan way ahead of time to take into account long equipment lead times and also permitting. Now our planning horizon is more of a 3 to 5 year look to take advantage of evolving technology. Technology is really changing at a faster pace than it ever did before, and so we have to stay flexible, and that's really, again, the key word. Nothing is set in stone. We're being flexible. It's a continuous process, our planning. We look at resources through multiple horizons. We look at 15 minutes, hourly, daily, weekly, seasonally, and also strategically over 1 to 25 years. And we never stop doing this reforecasting and planning. The flex path will allow us to pivot as new technology comes onto the market, or if we have to make a decision related to our assets, and this strategy will help mitigate market risk to our customers. Through the flexible path, we'll be able to make smaller investments, we'll ask our customers what they want, and make changes based on their feedback. Accordingly, it's also critical that we make the decisions that keep us on track to achieve improvements. The world is evolving very fast, so we have to too. As the entity that is traditionally charged with making sure that we're providing reliable and resilient and affordable energy to our customers, it's really invaluable that we make decisions across multiple dimensions of consideration. Our commitment to the community has to focus on these 6 facets. We make sure that we're thinking both strategically and long-term about securing and safeguarding our community's assets, that we drive service that is resilient and reliable. We also need to protect our environment and ensure that the short, medium, and long-term affordability of our services, that's important while we're also igniting broad and continual innovation. We can't think of any one of these buckets as a silo. We have to balance all of these things and take broad feedback from our stakeholders. We listen to a wide spectrum of input from the customers who say, I just want the lights to turn on when I flip the switch, to other customers who say, I just don't want my bill to be super high, and then other customers who say, why can't I just get all my power from the sun? We have to consider all of these options and have a balanced approach. This kind of talks about our journey, and we've been thoughtful, and we will continue to be thoughtful as we add more power, when we add it, what types. It's going to be a wiggly path. It's not a straight line. For example, in order to get ready for the retirement of Dealey, we purchased a natural gas combined cycle unit in a neighboring town called Seguin, and that happened in 2012. We started adding new things like solar, and at the same time when we added solar, we looked for ways to spur the local economy. So our new energy economy had a $1 billion impact by the summer of 2015. And then, as I mentioned before, at the end of 2018, we did shut down our 2 Dealey coal units. During 2018 is when we introduced our flexible path, and which brought us now to 2019, where we're now introducing the 2 spin-offs of the flexible path to ask our community for more input. I really think of them as spin-offs of a television show still starring that flexible theme. Those 2 spin-offs are the Flex Power Bundle, which is a way to add incremental capacity, and then also Flex Step, which is our second phase of our energy efficiency program. The Flex Power Bundle includes the next phase of public input, and it's our blended power approach. We're going to bundle together new technologies with those tried and true sources of energy that enable us to keep reliability, that reliability and affordability that our customers expect while still improving our impact on the environment. So we're looking to go out for a request for proposal for a combo of solar, battery, and gas. Before we get into the details of the bundled approach, I wanted to tell you a little bit about where San Antonio's power currently comes from. We have coal, natural gas, nuclear, wind, and solar, and these community-owned assets help supply the power that powers our community. These different sources all work together to maintain reliability and affordability. The sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing, and so we're exploring new ways to fill in those gaps, such as battery storage systems. Our constant innovation and our diverse portfolio have helped keep our rates low for our customers, and we rank within the lowest of the 20 largest cities in the nation. We not only have to think about how to add power for our growing community, but we also have to think about how to replace assets that are reaching their retirement, such as our Bronick and Summers plants. Having traditional sources like natural gas really help protect our customers from market prices when Mother Nature just doesn't cooperate and the wind and the solar don't show up. The general framework of the Flex Power Bundle will consider, as I mentioned before, solar, storage, and natural gas. Solar is really great because it aligns well with our load and the costs are continuing to improve and there are no emissions. But it is intermittent, and that's really just quite elementary. It doesn't produce power when the sun doesn't shine. So the addition of storage and gas together as a team will help firm up that intermittent renewable energy in this bundle. Natural gas generation will help firm up the non-emitting resources and support customer demand, since battery storage just isn't ready to branch out on its own yet from a scale perspective or from a price perspective. Some people ask, why can't you just do all 100% renewables today? And really at this point, renewables alone cannot support our customers and be reliable. So this bundled approach allows us to add value and maintain all those 6 aspects that I mentioned earlier. When we make choices on generation, here are those 6 things that we consider. For example, solar. It's become more affordable, but it's just not reliable because you're dependent on the weather. Natural gas is reliable, and all of these buckets here will evolve and change with the market, and so we're going to continually evaluate these factors. As new technologies emerge, we'll look at all of these perspectives and determine what's going to provide the best value for our customers. And that's why we call it our flexible path. It can be updated at any time. All that's set up to lead to our proposed Flex Power Bundle that will provide 650 to 850 megawatts peak capacity by 2023. Solar has a lower capacity factor because, again, you're depending on the daytime hours and the weather. So really it's a capacity factor of about 30% over the course of a year. But luckily the 300 megawatts really lines up well with our peak here in San Antonio. We're also looking to add up to 50 megawatts of battery storage. And then the natural gas purchase tolling agreement will help fill in those gaps. And when people ask me what my superpower is, I say listening, because for the past year, we've been listening to our community's thoughts on our flexible path, and we're listening again. We believe that community input is really vital to the success of the Flex Power Bundle, and so we're out there seeking opportunities to speak to a broad array of stakeholders about this new approach. We have information online. We're asking our community to fill out surveys. We're hosting focus groups, working sessions, and stakeholder meetings to ensure that we get as many viewpoints as possible. And I'm going to end with a story about my 6-year-old niece, because I learn a lot from spending time with my nieces. Last Christmas, she wanted to give each of us a gift, but she doesn't have any money because she's 6 years old. So she had made drawings for each one of us, and she started handing them out to all of her aunts and uncles. And she actually handed her grandma and me each 2 or 3, so she ran out because we're her favorites. But she thought really fast, and she grabbed a blank sheet of paper, and so she handed my sister a blank sheet of paper, and she said, "This can be anything you want it to be." I mean, she really sold that blank sheet of paper. Then I wanted one. And so what we're telling our customers is their future can be anything they want it to be, and we want to hear from them, and so we're here to listen. And I can answer any questions that you have. I don't know if we have any questions.
So can we describe to everyone how the question thing works?
Oh yeah, I think they're.
The voice of God is
So-
the goddess of voice is coming.
From afar. We have Slido.com. We have sent that out to all of the members of WCEE. If they want to text in questions to us, we will give that back to our moderator and also to our speakers and relay those questions. So we have it open and they're ready to go if they have any questions. If there's any questions in the room, though, we have some time for Q&A.
Angela, can you, you have been from the very beginning. Thank you for leading us in terms of what we're thinking about the environment and the nexus point of energy. But you've been the one that's really been at committee meetings for our climate action and adaptation plan that the city is running and taking to vote in a week.
Right.
And you've been at committee meetings. Can you talk a little bit about what people talk to you about? What are you hearing anecdotally?
Right, so it is really just the wide range that I talked about earlier, where we have a lot of customers who, some of them say, like, I don't want to worry about where my power is coming from. I just want to flip the switch, and that's why we pay you to figure it out. And then we also have people who want to have a lot of input into our process and want to see more renewables. I hear a lot of people asking about our solar program. Solar seems to be really popular because obviously we have a lot of sun here in San Antonio. And so it's really a broad spectrum of feedback we're getting. So.
Maybe Angela, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So,
One second, please. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Loretta. So for those who are listening, I'm Barbara Tyron with EPRI. So we were here at the electrification conference yesterday and today, and Paula received an interesting question when she was on the opening plenary yesterday from someone who was concerned about these issues, I would say. So my question to you, Angela, is do you feel that there's a lot of active community members around the issues you're describing today, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Right, so we do have a lot of our stakeholders who really want to see us move faster away from fossil fuels. And so it's a lot of the things I talked about today. We just have to keep educating the public on how important reliability and affordability is as well, because we have customers who talk to us about the price, you know, their bills. It's important for it to be affordable. And so again, it's really just, it's a very hard job that we have. You have to balance a lot of different things and look at all these different perspectives. And so we do the best that we can at that.
Okay, we do have a question from Slido. It says, you are the interim director of climate and sustainability. Sustainability is a word that we hear a lot in the energy world. What does it mean at CPS Energy?
Right, so sustainability, I think the main overall definition you hear is just making sure that we are using our resources wisely today and making sure that people in the future will be able to have those same resources. And so that is, at CPS Energy, we're always thinking about the short-term needs of our customers now and long-term into the future. And so I really think that's why the flexible path works so well with the sustainability definition, is because we are looking at ways where we can be sustainable into the future and still manage all those 6 aspects I talked about, which sustainability is part of. And so just staying flexible and making sure that we're looking at everything from a short-term and long-term perspective.
Thank you, Angela. I think we're ready to turn it back to Barbara, and we're going to get into the cybersecurity element.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was very well done and very impressive. Thank you. Appreciate you being with us here today. I'm now going to be introducing Shanna Ramirez, who is the Interim Vice President and Chief Integrated Security Officer here at CPS Energy. I think maybe Shanna might be the first joint San Antonio and Washington, D.C. WCEE member, because she went to the University of Maryland School of Law. So I think both communities can claim her. We'll set up a new kind of membership category at WCEE. So she came to CPS Energy in 2015 as Director of and Senior Counsel. And since that time, as I mentioned, since 2018, she's been Interim Vice President and Chief Integrated Security Officer with incredible level of responsibility. She has oversight of cyber and physical security, information technology security, local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies for prevention and mitigation. And she also educates, advises, and proposes strategy to the leadership team, the CEO, and the Board of Trustees around all of these different threats and incident response efforts and any issues related to cyber, physical, and data security. So that's a huge portfolio. Please join me in welcoming Shanna to the podium.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm a little bit concerned about being sandwiched between Angela and Paula, so 2 pros. So I expect everyone to laugh at my jokes and smile and nod as we go along. You know, Angela told a really great story about CPS Energy, about our flex path, and about our plan for environmental responsibility as we move forward. I'd like to build a little bit on that story and just tell you you know, what our approach is to securing our critical infrastructure and our evolving grid as we move forward in this increasingly digital age. They also gave me my own clicker, which is extremely dangerous in these situations, so again, bear with me. To understand where we're going, I want to talk to you a little bit about where we came from in terms of our integrated approach to security. I also want to talk to you about the current threat landscape and what some of the cybersecurity threats are that are out there on the horizon. At CPS Energy, for our 150-year history, the vast majority of that did not involve an integrated security model. For the most part, we took a very traditional developmental path in the security area. I think most companies are familiar with this. We had a physical security group that was responsible for securing our buildings and our assets, and then we had a cybersecurity group that was largely housed in the corporate IT area. For us, though, we also had three key areas other than that corporate IT area. Our energy delivery area, our power generation, and our energy market areas were also needed an IT component. However, 3 out of 4 of those areas were all OT. So we had very siloed approach to security. Each of those areas had their own teams, their own support teams, and their own security function. As a result, because 3 out of 4 of those were in the OT area, our security approach for IT security, cybersecurity, was largely based on a compliance model. Most of our efforts in the security area were designed to meet our NERC standards. Now, for those of you, I know everyone in here is familiar with NERC standards. For those of you that are not familiar with NERC standards, you're welcome. I won't go into NERC standards. You really could take a look at this. For a lot of industries, it is Sarbanes-Oxley standards. It is HIPAA standards. It is really any regulatory standard. The common component there when you have a compliance-driven security function is that most of your security measures are designed to meet those compliance minimums. And that's really the perspective that you take for your IT security. About 5 years or so ago, and this is when I can start to tell my age. Everything's about 5 years ago to me, but I think it was really about 6 or 7 years now. Our senior leadership here at CPS Energy took a look at this siloed model and said, okay, let's redo this. Let's take a real holistic approach to how we look at the organization, both from a physical security standpoint and from a cybersecurity standpoint. Let's do this so that we can apply the same security strategy across the organization. What this led to is still a very decentralized approach, but we have integrated security now, which was pulled out from under IT and anything else and stands alone. That leads the charge, and we take a very holistic approach, we take a consistent approach, but we are functioning in still 4 very unique environments. So I like to say it's consistency with flexibility, and that is really our current approach. At the same time that we were going through sort of an enterprise-wide change in the way we looked at security, the security industry itself was changing a whole lot. Security and technology combined together and really changed how folks thought about security. If you think about just your home or business in, say, 1985, and think of how you thought of security back then. For most of us, we can remember 1985. For some of you, it was what? Stranger Things? That's the best reference I can give you. But really, you thought about physical security, you're probably picturing security guards in your head. When you think about physical security for your home, you locked your door, you carried around a key. At the office, you had locked gates, you had locked file cabinets. For the young folks, I'll explain what a file cabinet was later. But cybersecurity, the best that you had back then was probably passwords for your computer. When you take the rapid explosion of technology and really the digitalization of the world, things changed a whole lot in security. Now we have everything that's digitalized. We have technology in every physical security function that we have. And there's a real blurring of lines now between what is physical security and what's cybersecurity. Our current state right now, really, industries, customers, and governments, you all have a pretty robust digital platform that you operate yourself every day. And there is an expectation in all of us that those platforms are going to meet, they're going to need to talk to each other. Oftentimes, they're going to overlap. Customer expectations around security and privacy have changed tremendously over time. Again, if you think about 1980s or 90s standards. What did you know about where your data was, and what did you expect from business partners around that data? It's very different today. Now I think customers, I mean, again, I'll use myself as an example. When I think of my iPhone, what should be on my iPhone? I don't know. I ask Apple most of the time. I go to the App Store. We look towards our vendors in terms of security combined with the product itself. We expect them to be our trusted advisors there. And I think that CPS Energy is starting to step into that same function. So, as a result of the changes in our organization and in the security industry, we come to this new kind of current state for our integrated security model. For us, that means physical security, cybersecurity, which really, when you think about cybersecurity, and when I talk about cybersecurity, what I'm talking about is data security itself in the very traditional sense, data privacy, compliance, and my favorite and yours, audit. Integrated security is also responsible for threat intelligence. And for us, that means simply understanding the risks that are out there, taking a whole bunch of information and diluting it down and distilling it down into the useful pieces that we need to distribute internally. We also are responsible for security awareness, which is really more than education. For us, it's really about establishing a security culture. Now, I think, again, if I were to draw a parallel that I think most of us can understand, I think over the last 10, 15 years or so, most of us in industries where there's a real safety concern have been able to understand that you have had to understand your obligation in terms of safety and incorporate all of the safety rules of your organization into the daily functions that you do every day. I think that now in the past couple of years, we've all started to understand that you have to do the exact same thing with all of your security obligations. So we work very hard here to establish a security culture where each and every person here understands what they're supposed to do, what part they play in our security structure, and they really feel empowered to fulfill the functions that they're required to fulfill, and they expect those around them to do the same things. The last piece of our integrated security team is our incident response and business continuity. That is something that I think, again, most businesses have. Here, though, I think that what's unique about it for us is we started to think about it very early on, really as an extension of a security mindset. Identify the risks that are out there, mitigate against those risks, and make a long-term security plan for us being around. So I've tried to give you an idea kind of who we are. Now I want to talk a little bit about where we are, because I think it's equally important to understand for us. We are in the South Texas Cyber Corridor, which for us is a really unique cybersecurity environment. I'm going to highlight Austin and San Antonio, not because there's not wonderful cities in between, but because time limitations required me to pick two. So Austin has a really vibrant technology, data, and aerospace industry. They have two bases. I lumped Fort Hood in there. That's kind of Austin broadly. They also have the Army Futures Command in Austin, so it's a very robust cyber and intelligence community. Now here in San Antonio, we are Military City, USA, which we're very proud of. We are home to Joint Base San Antonio, which is the largest joint base in the United States. It is also the home of the 24th and the 25th Air Force. The 24th and 25th Air Force really are responsible for the cybersecurity for all of the Air Force's stuff. They have also intelligence and surveillance and counter-surveillance functions there. San Antonio is also home to NSA Texas, and we have over 200 companies that support the cybersecurity and intelligence fields. Now, out of that 200 companies, that is all of the major defense contractors and over 100 specific cybersecurity companies. In fact, San Antonio is the largest cybersecurity hub outside of the DC area. So we have this rich, wonderful environment really to grow our cybersecurity in. I did not mean to skip over our colleges and universities. We have 15 colleges and universities here in San Antonio, and a number that impressed me and excited me is that we have over 150,000 students enrolled in those 15 colleges and universities right now. So that is an exciting thing to look for. So, talked about who we are, talked about where we are, let's talk about what we're doing. Our current cybersecurity focus really relates to our unique environment, and what we want to do here. We are an operator of critical infrastructure for the United States. It is really important that everybody continues to have their electricity flowing and their gas flowing. Each of us is extremely dependent upon that. If anybody in here has a teenager or a young person that has lost the charge on their iPhone, they can understand how crucial that is. So currently what we're focusing on is really the resiliency of our defense-sensitive load. We're also looking at threat intelligence and security awareness, data privacy and protection, and support of our smart city and smart city initiatives. When it comes to the resiliency of our defense-sensitive load, I can tell Paula's looking at me and thinking that was a lot of words to say something. As I said it was. We take very seriously the need for both physical and cyber protection of our grid. I was very privileged to get to learn a whole lot about what we do at Joint Base San Antonio. Extremely proud when I understood that every new airman goes through basic training at Joint Base San Antonio. All of our K-9 training for the entire military goes through Joint Base San Antonio. SAMC, the Joint Base San Antonio Hospital here in town, has the highest level of laboratory, and it's the only one in the country that exists. Also, some of the pilots that are trained for the biggest workhorse plane in the Air Force are all trained here. So, JBSA runs out of gas or electricity and they can't do our job. Here's the reality of that consequence. There is a huge force readiness impact on our entire military structure. So we've got to keep the lights on. When it comes to threat intelligence and security awareness, one thing that we've really learned in the security area is that our ability to spot threats as far out as possible, spot patterns as far out as possible, tell all of our friends and neighbors to look for those same trends and patterns, is the critical piece of being able to stop that threat or respond and recover quickly to that threat. So we've really tried very hard to develop a network of organizations and strategic partners that we can share intelligence with. We have made significant strides in doing that. We have over 13 individuals here at CPS Energy that have a secret clearance or above, so that we can ensure the ability to exchange information at the highest levels as quickly as possible. We're also focusing on data privacy and protection. I think that as regulatory and compliance obligations, I feel like, get heavier and heavier and weightier every year because of those lawyers. I'm looking at the lawyers, but it's really self-criticism. There's more and more compliance obligations in this area. Like I said before, there's also a much higher customer expectations around what happens to our data when a company holds that data, what information we expect to be private and not used for the purpose of sending us 55 emails a day to sell us something that we didn't want anyway. There's also a tremendous reliance on a lot of cloud-based solutions. Now, the reason that's really a security concern is simply that with any sort of cloud-based solution, you're taking the information out of your system, sending it somewhere else, and a third party is then responsible for the security while it's there. The other thing that I think is the reason we talk about data privacy and data protection so much is that really, I bet each of you, if you sit here and think now, name 5 companies that you can think of that were in the headlines and faced real serious reputational damage, penalties and fees and fines, because there was a data breach or a data loss. That is a list that you just don't want to be on. So we're looking very closely at that. And in terms of supporting our smart grid and smart city initiatives, the reason this is so critical to CPS Energy is that we own most of the poles in the city that all of these new sensors are looking for a home on. We own the fiber network in the community, and we still have a large amount of dark fiber that folks are looking to utilize. We own the AMI network here, and so we own a lot of the infrastructure that some of these smart initiatives would live on. So really, it's our responsibility to figure out how do we get customers exactly what they want, How do we make our community one that people really want to come to and enjoy being in because they have all this functionality, but how do we meet our security needs and their privacy expectations? When it comes to the threat landscape, this is when I get real gloom and doom, so sorry. But when it comes to the threat landscape, I think there's a couple of trends that occurred at the same time that are really important to understand. There was an explosion of technology and innovation that just doesn't seem to stop. Again, I think that if each of you think about how often you've had to upgrade your iPhone, I first of all don't know how we go from 1 to 4 without a 3, but that the cycle time for the evolution of technology is just getting more and more rapid. I think that mobile devices and smart devices are starting to be something that you really expect in everything. I can't think of a product now that you might get that you'd be surprised that it connected to the internet. Wireless connectivity is expected everywhere. The use of alternative energy, both sources and platforms to distribute that energy, again, is just the innovation cycle is very fast. All of this means, again, from a security perspective, a massive amount of new endpoints that we have to secure. For all of the efficiency gains and usability gains that we get, all of those new devices, new endpoints, new wireless networks mean it's a new door for the bad guys to get through. So as we add all of these devices, we've got to figure out a way to keep the doors locked. The other thing that's happened, I think, as a result of that is simply on an individual level, on a business level, on a community level, we just have a tremendous reliance on energy. If we don't have electricity and gas flowing, things come to a standstill. I know, I'm not speaking for myself, but I've seen, not people that work here, people that work somewhere else. If they didn't have their laptop or their iPad or their phone for a day, it would be difficult for them to get things done. As we digitalize everything and as all of our systems are interconnected, some of our business functions are just very difficult to run if you don't have access to those systems. And that's the reality, that's our new normal. I think that in terms of the threat landscape itself, the external parts of it, the things that we have to understand, is that the threat landscape now is the entire world all the time, 24/7, because of the internet. You no longer have to be next to someone to cause a risk of physical disruption. Okay, so I don't have to be next to the door to unlock it anymore because it's all connected to the internet. I don't have to be at the power plant to stop a generator from working if that generator is connected to the internet. That is just mind-blowing when you think about it. The other thing that this, now that we're global and everything's connected to the internet, it makes it much easier for criminals or threat actors to do things anonymously. Okay, the risk of getting caught is much lower. That was the primary deterrent effect for a lot of these before. That's just not there anymore. Other thing that's happening, because we're part of critical infrastructure, in the current geopolitical climate, there are people that want to disrupt because of business reasons, political reasons, economic reasons, ideological reasons, and again, just because if anybody in here has a teenager, just because they were angry. The ability to disrupt now in all of those areas is often targeted at critical infrastructure because energy is required to do anything. So we're a target for an awful lot of things. Some of the top threats, according to experts, really is in the upcoming year, cloud applications. Again, like I said, it's because your data is leaving and you're now going to rely on someone else. I think the critical thing to understand about that is simply that as an organization, you have to ensure that you have good supply chain security standards. You understand what your vendors are doing to secure your information, and you understand what the security obligations are between you and your business partners. Malware and virus attacks continue to be a threat. I think ransomware is the one that most people hear an awful lot about, but I think all malware and viruses will continue to be a top threat. Social engineering, which is really, again, sorry Paula, a lot of words to say. lying and cheating to get in somewhere that you're not supposed to be, or to convince someone that you are someone that you're not. And I think for us, the evolving grid is one of our top threats. With the new technology and the new platforms that are coming online really faster than we can learn about it, here's the reality. We don't really know what the future is going to look like, so it's a little hard to determine how we should secure it. Some of the mitigations, again, endpoint monitoring and alerting. That is a key baseline security measure that addresses a whole lot of those threats that I just talked about. Understanding where all those doors are and making sure that they're locked. Training and awareness. I think one of the critical things that we embrace here in CPS Energy is understanding that you have to ensure that all of your stakeholders, all of your users, understand what the threat is, they understand what their part is in mitigating it, and give them ownership and accountability in being part of the solution. Backup protocols. When we talk about ransomware, this is the absolute best defense. The way ransomware works, you have a breach, it gets onto your system, it locks you out of being able to access or utilize your data. Well, that doesn't really matter if you can shut everything down and back it up from what you had yesterday. So really robust backup protocols are important. Insider threat, I put this as a mitigation. A lot of times when we talk about insider threats, what we're saying is the folks that you've already given access through your perimeter security measures, all of your network users, all of the folks that are authorized to be in your facilities, they can be the biggest threat because most of your security is aimed at how you get in. Once you're in, you're in. I put it on the mitigation list, though, because I really think educating your users and empowering them to make sure that they're a security solution is really one of the best ways you can ensure your security success. So get your people involved in the process. This goes for our customers as well. We have to make sure that every one of our customers understands for the technology solution offered, there is often a security risk. As long as we have a good, clear dialogue about the give and take there, I think everybody ends up happy. Again, mitigation security culture, making sure that you have buy-in and ownership of every one of your stakeholders. Here we've been really good about using a phishing program. I'm smiling at anyone that's not in the room because I don't know if it's their favorite at all or not here. But we have set up a program that's designed, everybody knows it's happening, everybody knows to expect a test. We've gotten really good at it. All of these folks in here, you guys are doing really, really well, way above industry standard and way into best practice range. So I think that's really paid off. One of the mitigations I really wanted to focus on because I really thought it was an innovative way that we have approached it. We are municipal utility. There are a lot of wonderful things about being a municipal utility. There are also some inherent limitations. We will always have smaller teams and smaller budgets than some of the other business models as a function of our business model. Okay, we are not designed to spend the most and make the most money. That's not how a municipal utility works. So we found a really creative way to maximize the resources that we do have. Also, we've figured out a way to leverage our unique cybersecurity environment that we have here, and that's through our strategic partners. We have spent a lot of time working with the military, federal agencies, the city of San Antonio, other partners in our industry to figure out how we can use third parties to supplement and complement our resources and our in-house expertise so that, in effect, I don't have a small team and I don't have a small budget. I have access to the best people, the best information, and the best tools, even though I still can't afford it. We've done that through our partnership program. We've tried to collaborate and find a way where we have something that we can teach them, they have something that they can teach us, and we've gotten together on joint projects, pooled our resources, and really been able to do stuff that alone we simply could not have done. I've put a list here of our strategic partnerships just so that everybody could understand kind of the breadth of the partnership program we've developed. I would say for the military, the key thing that we've done there is information exchange and intelligence. We've also focused on grid hardening from a physical, a cyber, and even an EMP perspective. We've looked at hardening our entire area. Federal agencies, I would say again, intelligence and counterintelligence training has been the key contribution there. They host all of our security clearances. For the Southwest Texas Fusion Center, they are our local source of law enforcement information for the entire community to see the trends there. The City of San Antonio, again, I've talked at length about our smart city partnerships. Our industry partners we rely on heavily for R&D efforts. And our academic institutions, as I mentioned at the beginning, are our critical source of developing a skilled and ready and plentiful labor force so that we can keep growing in these areas. That brings me to the end of my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions you all have.
Questions from the Slido, but if there's any internal questions in the audience, we're happy to take those. Barbara?
Thank you, Loretta. Barbara Tyron here in San Antonio. So, Shanna, thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. I'm thinking for the WCEE members who are perhaps not here in the room, it was a real revelation to me. I've been hearing since I've been in San Antonio about how you're the 7th largest city in the U.S., and I kept thinking, I wonder how that happened. And I'm beginning to hear from your presentation, I'm beginning to sense that it's the military presence, which then drew the defense contractors, and then the cybersecurity efforts here. Is that a correct? Or have I think those who are not local would be interested in knowing just exactly how you became the military city, and in fact, if that is why you're such a large population base.
Is that a me or is that a you? Okay, here goes. History rewritten right here, folks. No, I think that it's important to understand that in the past we had a much larger number of military bases here in San Antonio. They were consolidated into Joint Base San Antonio. So the military does bring a tremendous presence. This is purely speculative on my part. I think a lot of people that have filtered through here in the military end up retiring here because it's such a great place. So I think we also have a military retiree community. We have a very robust medical field as well. Those colleges and universities bring an awful lot of people. We have a growing commercial industrial field that's growing. And I'm trying to think if I've missed any of the key industries. Oh, we also have this thing called the River Walk, which, if you haven't been here, you should visit. It's always wonderful. Skip August.
And
Okay, thank you.
we have one question. What percentage of the budget do y'all spend on cybersecurity?
That is an excellent question. I do not have that answer ready. I'd be happy to follow up with them. And I would say that because I'm a lawyer, I can say this. It depends on the year. It has definitely grown over the past few years. And it may be that we do have an answer. Paula has the answer.
No, I don't have an answer, but I have context, right? So all I can tell you is it is increasing. We are looking at our best to recruit. Shanna has done a great job bringing in people from outside of the industry, from defense, arms, from education, and I don't think that's going to stop. The integrated security aspect of what we do is probably our number one threat. The number of attacks we get are growing exponentially. And so why I don't think it's the biggest part of our current expenditure, it is probably our fastest growing.
Agreed.
We're going to take one more question. How is the public involved? Does CPS Energy have a dedicated phone line or email system that the public can use to alert you about a problem?
We have our wonderful customer engagement department, which did not volunteer for, but I would say that really that is our primary channel of getting information from the public. I would say that email and phone directly from our customers is the primary through customer service is the primary way we get that information.
Thank you, Shannon. We're going to turn it back over to Barbara for some closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, as WCEE president this year, I could not be more proud of what we have accomplished here today. We have successfully launched WCEE on the road, and thanks to Paula, our champion, for making this happen. With Paula, this would never have happened without you and your fabulous team here, and all of the WCEE members in Washington and in other locations, wherever you've called in from. Thank you all for this. If you would like to hear Paula again, I'm now going to encourage you to come to Washington, D.C. on October 25th for our annual membership meeting, where our keynote speaker will be Paula Gold-Williams, and we're thrilled that she's going to be there at Denton's, the law firm, and everyone is most welcome. If you need any information about the event, it's on the WCEE website, and also for WCEE members, it's in our event notices that you're receiving. So please feel free to sign up. We'd love to see you in DC with Paula on October 25th, and thank you all again.